WATD Fantasy Draft, and we are hot off the heels of a banner week, one of the all-time great scoring weeks in the history of the WATD Fantasy Draft, starting the 2025 season off with a bang. Johnny loaded up. It proved the right strategy. Brendan crushed it too. And I think I was probably bringing up the rear. I think I'm the only one with completely outstanding stat lines. But we actually did all right. I know this was a concern if we were going to be able to source stats this year, but we did okay in week one. Quinn, Johnny, and Brendan with you here. Just quickly taking a look at those week one numbers. Uh, Johnny, a huge day all around. So you had Michael Wildfire, despite the loss, still put up almost 23 points for you. Grayson Foley led all scorers this week with 41.4. And then you had incomplete stat lines from Mackay White, Brandon Errico, and Luke Richardson, but they all had TDs. Mackay had two. Brandon Errico had a 4 touchdown day in the first half of Hanover's win, and Luke Richardson chipped in with one in the fourth quarter. Marshfield's loss to Methuen. Hanover only gave up 7 points, so not a bad day for you. You had over 112 total points. Brendan, you had a complete stat line. I was able to get everything down to the yardage for you. You finished with 102 points. Jack Riley had a solid 3 touchdown day. Ian McNeil led your team with 34 points. Johnny, we saw him. He was fantastic. 130 on the ground, almost 32 receiving, and 3 total touchdowns. And then, outside of that, even your guys that didn't really perform still got in the game, got some yards, and then Roden Salmon had a big 2 touchdown game for you. I had the leader in the clubhouse as far as quarterbacks went, Hudson Garrity, as good as advertised, 242 yards through the air, another 45 on the ground, nearly a 300-yard day for the 14-year-old in his debut, and 4 total touchdowns. So everybody came to play in week one, and that sets up for a very exciting week two of the WATD Fantasy Draft. Any thoughts from either of you on week one?
I mean, it was electrifying across the board. Like whether you were on the North Shore, the South Shore, it just felt like there were games everywhere. I happened to be at the St. John's Prep Springfield Central game, and that might have been one of the best regular season games I've seen in a long time. Just the Eagles coming back against the Golden Eagles from 2 scores down with 7 minutes left to win it in the last 7 seconds. That was nuts.
Yeah, we were enjoying following that one along from the booth in Abington, looking at the updates there. That one screams potential Division One finals matchup, and it certainly lived up to the building. You got a good one there, Johnny. We had a pretty good one Friday night ourselves.
Yeah, we did. Those two were probably the best games in quite a while in the States. So those were, I mean, Abington Duxbury was tremendous energy, tremendous vibes, and a really, really good game. And yeah, it's always nice when my fantasy um wow, I am completely blank on the word. When my plan works out and who I pick and my strategy. Strategy was the word I look for. It's been a long day.
There you
My
go.
fantasy strategy pays off, and who would have thought when you pick five of the best players on the South Shore that it's going to work out?
There you go. Hannibal over here loves it when a plan comes together. All right. Well, with that, we rotate the order this week. So Brendan will be picking first. I will be picking second, and Johnny will be bringing up the rear. And with that, let's dive right into it. Brendan, you are up at the podium for pick number one, week two.
Well, you guys mentioned it. I think Abington might have had the best showing compared to what they were expected to do in terms of their games this week or last week, I should say. And I'm going to rely on one of their running backs to start, Naz Paulding, who really impressed in the 7-on-7s these past few weeks. So I'm excited to see what Abington can do this year. I feel like the Green Wave are poised for an incredible season after their performance in week one.
And as far as the Abington offense went in week one, and an offense that put up 44 points, was dynamic, was scoring in bunches. Kind of a quiet week for Naz Paulding. So I think a lot of motivation for him heading into a game against Apponequet to come out and be a bigger factor for this Abington offense. And certainly they were doing more of their damage through the air, so that was part of what limited him. But I'm sure they'll be looking to get him going in week two. All right, that puts me on the board. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go to the quarterback room first. I'm gonna get. I got my quarterback last, and it worked out for me last week. I'm gonna flip the script here. And I'm going to go with Jack Lucarelli out of Norwell, who had a damn good game week one. And was a level of player that, if week one is, the guys that you think are going to kind of be all stars for you this week, he certainly deserved to be picked last week. They're going into a matchup against Blue Hills that I absolutely love for the Clippers. Blue Hills are coming off of a 31 to nothing shutout at the hands of Randolph. I think Norwell is going to take advantage of that, and Jack Lucarelli is just an absolute animal. So I'm going to take my quarterback first here. All right, Johnny.
Yeah, that was my pick. So I'll save my quarterback for a little bit later. I'm gonna go running back. Am I gonna go running back? Yeah, I'm gonna go running back. This is a guy who I saw last year was really impressed. This team put up big numbers in week one. I'm gonna go Tyler Munchback from Weymouth. Just he was a part of kind of a 2-3 headed monster last year for Weymouth, a team that was really impressive live and just kind of ran into a buzzsaw of the D1 playoffs. They come out rearing to go against Braintree in week one, and he's a guy that they're off. He's going to play a big part in their offense, every week. So I want him this week.
I want to note it. This is a love of the game pick too. Johnny just off duty saw this game down in Weymouth last year. I remember good reports coming back from Tyler Munchback. He was on my list this week as well. How could he not be after he was part of leading the way in a 486-yard rushing performance against Braintree in week one? So, yeah, I think a fantastic pick, Johnny. He's clearly at the heart of what is a very, very good ground game this year. All right, round two, swinging back to you, Brendan.
This is going to be an interesting matchup in the Patriot League, I think, to start, especially since this school did not have a chance to play in week one. I'm going to go with Jake Varhalik out of Hingham because they're going to have to pass against this Hanover team, which had an incredible showing in their week one performance. I think it was like a 34-7 blowout, if I'm not mistaken. So it's going to be a tough matchup. They're going to have to pass. And sure, my Sailor friends in Situate might be like, what are you doing? But I'm going to roll with the Harbormen this week, and I'm going to pick Jake Varhalik.
I love any of these guys there are a couple of teams in our area that didn't play week one. And that's got to be a lonely feeling. Waiting. Everybody around you is playing their week one games. You've got to be just absolutely dying to get out there. Tough matchup for Hingham, certainly, but Jake is going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the area this year. And I think he's going to come out hair on fire, ready to go. And like you said, Brennan, they're going to be throwing the ball a lot. So I think that's a good call there. I'm going to go to the wide receiver room, and I'm going to play right off of that same boat. I'm going to go with a guy that was also waiting and watching week one, announced himself last year as a freshman. I think this is a team that has an awful lot to prove this year, coming off of a really, really tough campaign last year. But they return a solid quarterback, and obviously this piece. I'm going with Pat McDonough from Rockland, wide receiver. They're going up against DY. I just think sitting there watching in week one, again, they're going to be ready to go coming out week two, extra week to get your kind of system implemented. And this kid's absolutely electric. We saw him in a game against East Bridgewater. They came up short in, but he was really, really good. So I want Pat McDonough. All right, Johnny.
I'm gonna go wide receiver. I'm gonna go to a guy that we saw live on Friday night and have a unbelievable game. I'm gonna go Kingston Maxwell from Abington. He's just a guy who he's a big body. You can tell that Riley loves to go to him, and he's kind of their safety net. He's really just their break glass in case of emergency guy. We saw him be able to climb the ladder, a tremendous athlete and a tremendous vertical from him. And he just went up and made plays happen. He made a couple jump balls, a couple fourth down plays, one where he was able to catch it short of the sticks and then run about 20 to 30 extra yards after the catch. So he can really do it all. And Abington, they showed the ability to sling it. So, I'm going with him.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the more impressive performances we've seen from a wide receiver in a long time. I mean, obviously, as a guy who makes his bones on the basketball court, that's where he'll be playing at the next level. But watching Jack Riley just be like, all right, go up and get it, man.
Yeah, he's out there somewhere.
Yeah, we're doing jump ball drills, we're doing tip drills. He had a fantastic game. He got the assist on the Solomini touchdown in overtime too. So yeah, great pick, Johnny. All right, Brendan, round three.
I was really impressed with this Patriot League team in week one after their performance against Old Rochester. I'm going to go with Liam Joyce out of Plymouth North, coming off a two-score victory. I feel like they're going to have to pass a lot more in this game, however, against Pembroke. Pembroke also won their game against Whitman Hanson 20-17. It's going to be a tight matchup, I think, this week, and the passing is going to be a big factor, I think.
I think it's gonna be a super underrated game. I'm really excited for this one. They played tight last year at Plymouth North. I think this one's gonna be really fun. And yeah, I'm right there with you. I like what Plymouth North has going on in the quarterback room as well, and so I think Liam Joyce, top target there, could be in for a big week. All right, I'm gonna go into the running back room here, and give me Gavin Brown out of North Quincy. I think they've got a tester of a matchup against Oliver Ames, going to be hungry coming off of a loss in week one. But Gavin Brown was at the center of a really good rushing attack for North Quincy. Kind of felt like both of the city teams, Quincy and North Quincy, surprised a little bit in week one, had a little bit more in the passing game than we expected. But we knew both were going to be good on the ground, and they were. And Gavin Brown was a big part of that for the not the Red Raiders, for just the Raiders. So give me Gavin Brown. All right, Johnny, close out the round.
Hmm. You know, I was impressed by this kid. The game went awry. It got away from them, but I'm gonna go with Max Nebstedt from Spellman. I just think he was a guy that no matter how that game went, obviously it got away from him early, but he was a guy that, still had the fire throughout the game, was still going out and making plays. Their backup quarterback, the freshman Dick, came in and he's not afraid to throw the ball. So whoever they have, whether or not it's the starter who got out, and was injured, or Dick that comes in off the bench, he was definitely one of their go-to guys, and he should have caught a touchdown as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Unfortunately, he'd like to have that one back, and then goes up the next play, short memory, goes up and gets one, makes the harder play. So I just think that's a guy that no matter the scoreboard, he is going to get his, and he's going to be a factor, and he has to be. And I think this week two matchup is kind of they look at that matchup and say, hey, we got to go out and try to get this one before the schedule gets really tough for us.
Yeah, I think you look at this Cardinal Spellman team and kind of my take on it, Johnny, after we saw them last week is okay, they knew they were going to be young. They, as it turns out, some of that offensive line, really on both sides of the line, but really that offensive line is not quite yet there yet. Like, there's a lot of inexperience. The struggles in the passing game were largely due to getting beat just at the point of attack by a very good defensive front from Nantucket. It's a good coaching staff, though. I imagine they're going to scheme something up. Like I feel like whether it's back to Ronan Manning, who I feel like might end up missing this week with injury potential there, or it's the freshman AJ Dick, they're going to get them some time. And I think that and Nabstat obviously proved himself to just be a playmaker. All right, round four, Brennan.
This might be a tougher matchup than I think, but I feel like I should roll with the skippers this week, and I'm going to go with Max Monahan as my next running back. This is a chance where they can have a rebound game against Silver Lake, coming off a tough opening week performance. I think it's going to be close, but I feel like Cohasset's going to have the lead, and they're going to rely heavily on the running game.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm excited to see this one. Um, I think that they largely did it on the ground with Michael Wildfire last week against a good Norwell defense. I think you're going to see the running backs be a little bit more in the mix this week. And Max is obviously super talented, so I think this is a big game for Cohasset. It was another kind of tight matchup for them last year. You don't want to start treading down the path where you have to run the table in league to get back above 500 this season. So big game for them at home, home opener. I think good call there, Brendan. I like Max. All right, that puts me back on the clock, and I'm gonna go to my wide receiver room, and I'm gonna pluck another Norwell guy. I'm gonna try to get both ends of the pairing. Give me Matt Pantilla, Norwell, top target for Jack Lucarelli. I really love the matchup. That's chiefly why I'm hitting on this one. And I'm excited to see what Matt can bring. I think it's a whole new season of weapons for Jack Lucarelli, and obviously the focus is more on what he's able to do with his legs, running as kind of a dual threat quarterback. But they aired it out with some success in week one. I think Matt Pantella is going to have a big game against Blue Hills. All right, Johnny.
It's nice. Both of you have picked quarterbacks, so I'm gonna keep that one in the back pocket. I am going to go running back. I'm gonna go with Leo Steinberg from Quincy. I think it's a favorable matchup for them. They're on the road at Braintree. We saw Braintree come up well short against Weymouth, and Weymouth ran the ball really well. So I think Steinberg is going to get plenty of touches. He's going to get plenty of looks, and I think it's a favorable matchup for them.
Yeah, I'm interested. So it's obviously Weymouth had their way with Braintree last week. I think Quincy is going to be favored in this matchup as well. Braintree is got to get their act together, but it's you gave up 486 yards on the ground last week. Quincy has got a great running back tandem. Leo Steinberg had a big week right alongside Jonas Allah last week. I think that they're going to look at that and say, all right, let's go pound the rock. So I think you're going to get a lot of touches. How invigorated is Braintree to try to flip the script and stop that? Are they able to? I think you're gonna find out because there's no reprieve for them. That's a very tough running game from Quincy as well. So I like the pick, Johnny. All right, Brendan, round five.
I'm going to round out my skilled positions here. I'm going to go with my second wide receiver. I'm going to go with Dylan Reed out of Bridgewater A&M. I feel like this matchup with Plymouth South is going to be a very good one, back and forth. We saw Bridgewater A&M just come up short on a walk-off field goal by Mansfield, who's one of the best teams in the state, I think. And that just strikes me that Bridgewater A&M is ready for a comeback. Plymouth South, I already said was a dark horse entering the year. They're due for a comeback. I think Darren Prezzetti's Grew is going to have a very good year. That said, I think it's going to be back and forth, and there's going to be a lot of passing in this one.
Yeah, you've plucked now from two matchups, Brendan, that I think are sleepers to be really like great games here in week two. The BR Plymouth South game I think is going to be excellent. That BR team is legit. I think all the credit in the world to Ian Bain. I mean, we're a season and one game into it, but it just feels different there, and I think he's doing a great job. That was a hell of a game against Mansfield. I think this one's going to be really fun this weekend, and yeah, I like Dylan Reed. All right, that brings it to me. How cheeky do I want to get? Uh, I'm gonna go running back, and I'm gonna dip in with the guy we saw last week. He obviously ended up doing more really as a receiver than a running back, but I'm gonna go with Ryan Solomini. I think we already have. Yeah, you got Kingston Maxwell already, Brendan, but I'm gonna dip back into this Abington upon a quick game.
Kind of
Uh,
a loophole. He
Say
was
again.
it was a bit of a loophole pick with him being a running back because obviously he technically is, but he was
Yeah, he did a little bit of everything. He was as much a quarterback in that game as he was a wide receiver. So, he's my athlete for the week. But yeah, I mean, he's obviously sensational. He's really talented, incredible burst off the ball. So yeah, I'm happy to have Ryan Solomini. All right, Johnny.
quarterback. I got a couple options. Obviously, it's early. A couple good guys had early weeks. I don't. Who can you refresh me? Who's been taken for quarterback this week?
I took Jack Lucarelli and Brendan took Jake Farhalik.
Okay, that's what I thought, and I was shocked that he wasn't picked week one. I'm gonna go Johnny Donovan.
Yeah.
I just feel like that's a guy that I can't let fall unpicked to week three. So that's, I mean, just a, I mean, a tremendously talented quarterback, and that's going to be a real fun matchup. And I kind of went with him too because we talk about it on Sunday, we talked about it on Friday. Duxbury's defense has given up a ton of points these last couple games. Obviously, different seasons, but that was one thing that we highlighted is they need to kind of clean that up, and they didn't against Abington. So, I kind of expect another high scoring game next week.
You said you had no problem scoring in week one. The last time that Johnny Dunham played Duxbury, he set a first half record for touchdown passes in a Super Bowl game. So yeah, this one kind of slid by for me. I think you just kind of
That's why I had to
inherently,
double check.
yeah, I think you just inherently don't pick against the Duxbury defense. But you mentioned it, Brendan. We were discussing this on the show. Cracked the books, did some research. Duxbury has now given up 124 points over their last three games. It is the worst three-game stretch defensively that they have had since prior to their league title streak starting in 2008. I don't even know how far back it goes, but it is the worst stretch in the last almost 20
I was
years for
still
the
on the
Duxbury
Sailors
defense.
back then.
Say again?
I was still a member of the
Yeah.
Sailors back then.
Yeah. So post post Brendan's playing career, we have never seen such a struggle defensively for Duxbury. And out of the frying pan into the fire. I mean, Johnny Donovan's one of the best quarterbacks in the area, so they're going to get no reprieve this week. I think that's a great pick, Johnny. All right, Brennan, final round. Everybody needs a defense. You get your first crack at it.
It's tough because there's a lot of great matchups this week. I'm going to go with Mansfield against Bedford. I think Mansfield has a good chance to have a big rebound performance. And they still won in week one in dramatic fashion, but I feel like they had to do it against a very tough Bridgewater Ram team where Bedford is coming off a tough game in themselves. So I feel like this is a chance for Mansfield to get right and maybe win this one by 3 scores.
I like it. I like it. Not one that was on my radar, but that's hey, like that's when you're running the book, you're aware of the Bedford results. That one wasn't in my periphery, so I like that, Brennan. Um, I mean, I think they still had like you said, like I think it was still a good week for them defensively. They limited, BR's got a lot going on offense this year,
Oh,
so
yeah.
I think that's a good performance for the Hornets, and I think it would not surprise me at all for them to build off of that in week two. That leaves the board open for me. I'm not gonna go thrice from the same matchup, so I'm gonna go with Randolph. Pitched a shutout in week one. I don't know if they do it again, but it wouldn't surprise me. Boston English doesn't scare me for the Blue Devils. I think they looked every bit of the Super Bowl contender that we thought they might be in week one. So I'll take the Randolph defense. All right, Johnny, close out this week's draft.
I believe that this was probably going to be the one you were taking. I'm going to go Norwell.
Yeah.
I just think that's a really favorable matchup for them. We saw a South Shore team blank Blue Hills last week. I kind of expect more of that this week, so I'm going to go with the Clippers.
Yeah, that is the one. I don't want to go so heavy Clipper, but I just think that's the matchup, right? Like that's to me, early in the season, it's sometimes tougher to kind of figure out who those matchups are going to be, but that one jumps off the page to me as going to be a tough one for Blue Hills and a big one for one of the South Shore's best in Norwell. So, all right, that rounds it out. Take a look at the boards. Picking out of the top slot, Brendan, your quarterback, Jake Varholic out of Hingham, your running backs, Naz Paulding out of Abington, and Max Monahan out of Cohasset, and your wide receivers, Liam Joyce out of Plymouth North, and Dylan Reed out of Bridgewater Raynham with the Mansfield defense. I was picking out of the second slot, Jack Lucarelli, my quarterback. My running backs, Gavin Brown out of North Quincy and Ryan Solomini out of Abington. My wide receivers, Pat McDonough out of Rockland and Matt Pantilla out of Norwell with the Randolph defense and Johnny out of the three hole. Your quarterback, Johnny Donovan out of Scituate. Your running backs, Tyler Munchback out of Weymouth and Leo Steinberg out of Quincy. Your wide receivers, Kingston Maxwell out of Abington and Max Nabstedt out of Cardinal Spellman with the Norwell defense. All right, that brings us to the end of the Week 2 WATD Fantasy Draft. We've got one game this weekend, our South Shore game of the week over in Cohasset. The Skippers taking on the Silver Lake Lakers. Should be a fun one. Both teams 0-1, coming in extra motivated on the wrong side of two tight games. So it should be an awful lot of fun. Important matchup for both of these two teams to try to get a win on the books before we start making our way towards league play. So you can tune in for that 7 p.m. 95.9 WATD pregame show will be kicking off around 6:40. So don't forget, tune in for that. And we'll be back with the Sports Exchange on Sunday night. So until then, Brendan and Johnny, I'm Quinn. We will see you next time on the WATD Fantasy Draft.